Hello, you join me as we look at number 12 in our series, going through the book of Exodus. And this is Moses' question there in Exodus 33. Lord, please show me your glory. Why did he want to see his glory? It's interesting. We've always wanted to have some concepts of God, something visible. You see in the footage just now, the cable car going all the way to the top of Mount Fansipan here in northern Vietnam, and it was on the top of the mountains that the gods were usually considered as living, and that's where people went to meet with God. Even there in Moses' time, God was there at the top of Mount Sinai and so on. It's a very human perspective to be looking up to see God. But why does Moses want to see God? Is it because he's not satisfied with the experience he's had? Or is it because he wants a deeper communication, a communion with him, the one who he really calls friend, and God calls his Moses friend as well? And I think that's really what we need to be looking at this time. How do we see God? How do we understand God? What do we think God is like? And here in Exodus 12, as we're coming towards the end of our study in Exodus, we see this long transformation that is needing to happen to the Israelites. And I'm afraid it didn't even last through the 40 years because they still hadn't got the point even on the borders of the promised land. Moses, he had understood God pretty well, I would say. There were a few others, yes, but generally most of them didn't really see God in the way that God really wanted to be seen. And I think that is very much still true today. How do we understand God? What is he really like? How do we relate to him? What does he really want from us? Maybe that's the way to say it. We see through Exodus all these requirements, as it were, that God puts on his people, trying to get them to the point of saying, okay, we understand what we need to do. It's not that you are demanding this in a way that a pagan God would, but it's trying to help this relationship by being very precise and very particular in how these things work out. Because, as we've often said, they came out of slavery. They really didn't know God at all. They had seen the Egyptian gods. They'd heard stories about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but not really a personal experience, do you see? And now God has to help them to understand what he is really like. And of course, it's easy to get the wrong impression as you go through all the laws there in Exodus. But as Paul points out, having tried this whole process of keeping the law as a way of salvation, he says, by keeping the law, no one is made right with God. And that is so true. Just by observing laws, while it might help us from going astray of committing sins, doesn't get us to that close relationship with God that he can heal us and change us from these sin-sick rebels into trustworthy friends. That is what God is looking for. That happened to Moses. How did it happen to Moses? Well, he grew up in the courts of Egypt. He had to stand for himself and his beliefs as he had been taught by his parents. And then he had spent 40 years keeping sheep there in Midian. That must have been a transformative experience as well for him, because he had time to think and to reflect and to write, understanding what God was really all about. And when he comes back to lead the children of Israel, even there he's still not sure. When he meets God at the burning bush, there's doubt. He doesn't feel like he has the ability to speak. He doesn't feel like he should be leading them. He wants help. God gives him Aaron, but he's still not comfortable in all of this. So as we look and as we grapple with the same kind of ideas, what is God like? What is he asking from me? What does he want? How should I approach him? read the Bible, pray, listen to others who've had a good positive experience of God. Don't listen to those who I believe will be misrepresenting God by declaring he is in some way legalistic or punitive or hostile in whatever way. So let's spend the time asking, somewhat similar to Moses, Lord, please show me your glory, the kind of person you're really like in my own life, and help me to trust in you.